Are you aware of the sad reality of school cafeteria food? From moldy chips to mysterious fried black things, students across the nation are being served unappetizing meals that have them questioning the quality of their lunch. So why are schools feeding our youth the worst possible food? What kind of regulatory measures can be taken to ensure healthier meals? How can we create a lunchroom revolution and ensure our young ones are nourished? Students across the nation are taking a stand against the abysmal state of school lunches by sharing photos of their unappetizing meals online. With milk that resembles a science experiment gone wrong, and chicken sandwiches that look suspiciously like they were cut with a blindfold on. It's no wonder these students are disgusted. Moldy black chips and mysterious fried black things aren't exactly what comes to mind when thinking about a satisfying lunch. But it's not just about taste and appearance. These meals are also contributing to the alarming rates of heart disease among young children, with fatty streaks in their arteries becoming all too common. While countries like France serve their students delicious and nutritious four-course meals, American schools seem to be stuck in the realm of soggy pizza and cheese-like substances. It's time for a change. Why are schools force-feeding our youth the worst possible food? It's time for a lunchroom revolution. In the aftermath of America's victory in World War II, the nation found itself on the brink of another conflict, the Cold War. The military knew that in order to have any hope of winning this new war, they needed the strongest and toughest men available. However, to their surprise, it seemed that these men were nowhere to be found. You see, before World War II, the United States had endured a devastating depression. The men of America had suffered greatly during this time. Their bodies were weakened by years of deprivation and struggle. General Lewis B. Hershey, a former school principal who had joined the armed forces before the war, delivered a stern warning to the House Agriculture Committee. He revealed that a shocking 40% of military recruits were failing their physical exam due to malnutrition. With the looming threat of war with the Soviet Union, the government knew that urgent action was needed. America's future was at stake, and they couldn't afford to enter the war with weak and malnourished soldiers. And so the government devised a plan to come to the rescue. They launched an emergency nationwide feeding program called the National School Lunch Act. In the eyes of the government, this program was not just a matter of providing meals to hungry children, but a matter of national security. The health and well-being of the nation's children were of utmost importance, as they would be the next generation of soldiers and defenders of the nation. Food started flowing into schools all across the country. Surplus food came from farms. Whatever the farmers had too much of was shipped off to schools, where hungry children eagerly devoured their offerings. There was no time for balanced diets or fancy menus. It was war, and the focus was on maximizing calories and breeding strong soldiers. Surprisingly, the program worked. The children grew stronger and healthier, and America became one of the world's most powerful military superpowers. As the years went by, the National School Lunch Program grew larger and more expansive. It became not only a means of nourishing children, but also a political tool. By 1969, 15% of American children were receiving free or highly discounted school lunches. This was seen as a basic human right and an essential component of a just society. Richard Nixon recognized the importance of the program and poured even more money into it during his presidency in the mid-1970s. The standard had been set. Parents expected their children to be fed at school, and schools relied on the government for funding. However, in 1981, a funding cut hit the National School Lunch Program like a gravitational force. Suddenly, American public schools found themselves in a dire predicament. They had become dependent on the government's financial support, and there was no going back. The sad truth is that our economy is being suffocated by a mountain of debt that continues to grow at an alarming rate. It's like we're digging ourselves deeper into a financial abyss with no real hope of ever building a lasting recovery. But let's take a stroll down memory lane to 1981, where a sinister plot unfolded. President Ronald Reagan and his cronies decided to slash funding for the National School Lunch Program, leaving schools scrambling for solutions. Imagine this: 1 in every 4 students couldn't be fed, and chaos ensued. But amidst the chaos, a sly food conglomerate saw an opportunity to exploit the situation. They swooped in, ready to make a profit off the desperation of our nation's youth. As a big conglomerate, your main goal is to maximize profits. However, you're facing a challenge. Every adult in America is already aware of your products. They know about your lunch meat and junk food, so there's no more money to be made from that demographic. To target the next generation, you've identified the school lunch budget crisis as your perfect opportunity. Currently, schools only have about $1.50 to spend on actual food per student. This limited budget makes it difficult to provide nutritious meals, but you found a way to exploit the situation. You've struck a deal with schools for every can of soda or bag of chips sold. The school receives a generous cut. This arrangement not only helps schools with their funding issues, but also incentivizes them to promote your products. But it's not just soda and junk food companies that benefit from this arrangement. Bulk food manufacturers like US Foods, Tyson, and Cisco also capitalize on it. With schools lacking government funding, they no longer have the resources to train actual chefs. As a result, they turn to frozen, highly processed, factory-made food from companies like yours. You've become the primary supplier for hospitals, prisons, and now schools. From trained cooks to minimum wage lunch ladies armed with box cutters, the quality of school lunches has slowly degraded into a sad state, filled with processed, chemical-laden food. However, you can't ignore the rules set by the USDA, which dictate how much sodium, sugar, and fat are allowed in each cafeteria item. These regulations were tightened after a rise in obesity rates among children. The government noticed that school meals were contributing to this issue, but conveniently, they never addressed reducing the amount of artificial ingredients in these lunches. To circumvent these rules, you found a loophole. According to the USDA, every school lunch must contain at least one serving of fruits and vegetables. So you've cleverly manipulated this requirement. For example, if you're a pizza company like Domino's, you argue that each slice of pizza contains enough pizza sauce, which has been cooked down from tomatoes, to count as one serving of vegetables. This way, your iconic rectangle pizza or Domino's Smart Slice is now officially USDA approved. Similarly, you've downsized chip packaging to technically comply with lower sodium guidelines, while the actual food remains largely unchanged. Another battle you fought is to keep starchy vegetables like French fries on the menu. The potato and frozen food lobbies mobilized to ensure that potatoes, including French fries, were classified as vegetables. They argued for the potatoes' low cost and high potassium content, successfully convincing the USDA to include them. Unfortunately, these tactics have led to the worst school lunches in the United States. Companies like Domino's and Frito-Lay serve ultra-processed, unhealthy food to children every day. They claim to have healthier alternatives, but closer inspection reveals that these products are simply slight variations of their original, unhealthy counterparts. For example, Domino's Smart Slice Pizza claims to have reduced fat and sodium compared to their regular pizza. However, the ingredient list reveals the presence of soybean oil, maltodextrin, and sodium propionate, which have negative health implications. Similarly, Frito-Lay's school-friendly snacks are essentially the same as their regular versions, complete with GMO corn and seed oils. These processed foods are not occasional treats, they are served to children every school day. Research has shown that schools serving pre-cooked meals from private companies have lower test scores compared to schools that cook food from starch. It's a disappointing situation when a product like Lunchables, one of the most ultra-processed foods available for children, finds its way into school lunches. Even the specially designed versions of these products, which are supposedly healthier, still contain harmful additives like glyphosate, nitrates, and sodium phosphate. By raising awareness, advocating for change, and holding schools and food companies accountable, we can create a brighter and healthier future for our children. And now we've come to the end. Don't forget to like, share, and comment.